Commander Zex stood on the bridge of his ship and looked at the blue planet ahead, Earth. He had not seen it for 500,000 years. Back then, it was just a small research station where his people studied the tiny creatures that lived in caves and trees. The Valthori had been the rulers of the galaxy once. They built great cities of crystal and controlled hundreds of worlds. Earth was nothing special to them, just another place to collect samples and run experiments. When the Great War called them home, they left Earth behind without a second thought. They expected nothing would change. Now Zex was back. His fleet of 20 bioships moved through space toward the small blue world. He thought he would find either a dead planet or maybe some animals that had grown a bit smarter. Instead, his computers were showing him something impossible. There were metal structures floating around Earth. Big ones. His sensors picked up energy readings that looked almost as strong as Valthori technology. This should not be possible. The creatures they left behind were barely smart enough to use tools. "Commander," said his science officer Krelinth, "I am reading hundreds of artificial objects in orbit around the planet. Some of them are very large." Zex felt a cold fear in his chest. "Show me." The main screen lit up with images from their long-range sensors. Massive space stations orbited, Earth-like metal moons. Ships moved between them in organized patterns. The dark side of the planet glowed with millions of lights. "This cannot be right," Zex said. "Run the scans again." While his crew worked, Zex thought about what they had left behind. The experiments. His people had been testing different species to see which ones could adapt and survive. They changed the genes of many creatures, making some stronger, some smarter, some more aggressive. It was all just research to them. On Earth, Captain Jake Morrison was having the worst day of his career. He commanded the defense station New Geneva, one of Earth's most important military bases. It was supposed to be a quiet job watching for asteroids and space junk. Instead, his computers were screaming warnings about 20 unknown ships approaching from deep space. "Sir," said Lieutenant Amy Chun, his communications officer, "we're getting a transmission from the lead ship. It's not in any language our computers recognize." Jake rubbed his tired eyes. First contact with aliens was supposed to happen to important people, not to a defense station commander who was 3 months from retirement. "Put it through to Earth Command," he said, "and get me Dr. Lisa Parker. If anyone can figure out what they're saying, it's her." Dr. Lisa Parker was deep underground when her emergency communicator started beeping. She was in Cave System 7, studying the strange crystal formations that her team had been finding all over the world. The crystals were old, very old. Older than human civilization by hundreds of thousands of years. She had spent her whole career trying to understand where these crystal structures came from. They were too perfect to be natural. Someone had built them. But who? And why did they all seem to be connected in a pattern that covered the entire planet? "Dr. Parker," came Jake Morrison's voice through her communicator. "We need you at New Geneva right now. We have visitors." Lisa looked at the beautiful crystal wall in front of her. It pulsed with a soft blue light, just like all the others. For 20 years, she had been trying to solve this mystery. Now something told her she was about to get her answer. The message from the alien ships was simple once the computers figured out how to translate it. The words appeared on screens all over Earth's command centers. "We have returned to reclaim what is ours." Admiral Kate Sullivan read the message from her flagship, the EDS Defiant. She commanded Earth's Space Defense Fleet, 12 heavy cruisers and 40 smaller ships. It was a powerful force, built to protect Earth from any threat. But she had never expected to face the people who might have built those crystal structures. "All ships, battle stations," she ordered. "Form defensive positions around Earth. Do not fire unless fired upon." Admiral Sullivan had fought in 3 wars and commanded fleets for 15 years. She knew how to face human enemies. But these were not humans. These were the beings who had been on Earth before humans even existed as a species. Back on the Valthori flagship, Zex-High was getting more worried by the minute. His sensors showed that the humans had weapons. Real weapons. Energy cannons, and missile systems that looked almost as good as his own. "Commander," said his military advisor Dexmore, "these creatures have a defensive fleet in position. They are not attacking, but they are ready to fight." Zex-High could not believe what he was hearing. The little mammals his people had studied so long ago were now flying spaceships and pointing weapons at him. How was this possible? "Open a communication channel," he ordered. "Let me speak to whoever leads these humans." The first words spoken between humans and Valthori in 500,000 years were simple ones. "I am Commander Zex-High of the Valthori Reclamation Fleet," came the alien voice through Earth's communication systems. "This world belongs to us. We built the first cities here. We shaped the life that grew here. We have returned to take back what is ours." Admiral Sullivan's response was just as simple. "I am Admiral Kate Sullivan of the Earth Defense Fleet. This world belongs to us now. We were born here. We built these cities. We will defend our home." As the 2 fleets faced each other in the darkness of space, both sides were learning something that would change everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. Valthori were learning that their abandoned experiment had grown beyond anything they could have imagined. The humans were learning that they were not alone in the universe, and that their visitors might be the reason why humans had always been so good at war. The meeting took place on Harmony Point, a neutral space station that humans had built for exactly this kind of situation. Neither side wanted to meet on the other's ships, so they chose neutral ground floating in space between Earth and the Yao. Alien Fleet. Commander Zex-High entered the meeting room with confidence. He brought his science officer Krelenth and his military advisor Dexmore with him. They expected to meet with primitive leaders, maybe chiefs of tribes or early rulers of simple cities. The Valthori had seen this before on other worlds where they had conducted experiments. Instead, they found themselves facing Ambassador Roy Thompson, a man in his 50s who spoke with the authority of someone who represented an entire planet. Next to him sat General Amy Rodriguez, whose uniform showed medals from battles the aliens had never heard of. Dr. Tony Clark, a specialist in alien life forms, completed the human team. The room itself surprised the Valthori. The walls showed detailed holographic displays of star maps, technical diagrams, and images from across the galaxy. This was technology that should not exist on a world they had abandoned as primitive. "Welcome back to Earth," Ambassador Thompson said in perfect Valthori language. "We have been expecting you." Zex-High felt his confidence shake. These humans spoke his language. They knew he was coming. This was all wrong. "You speak our tongue," Zex-High said. "How is this possible?" Dr. Clark smiled and activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air, showing crystal structures from deep inside Earth's caves and oceans. The same crystal structures that the Valthori had built 500,000 years ago. "We found your archives," Dr. Clark explained. "We have spent 300 years learning your language, studying your technology, and preparing for this day." Krelenth could not hide his shock. "You discovered our data storage crystals?" But they were buried deep underground, protected by quantum locks. "We are very good at digging," General Rodriguez said with a slight smile. "And we are very good at solving puzzles." The humans began to show their guests what they had learned. Dr. Clark presented archaeological evidence from dig sites all over Earth. Every Valthori installation had been found, studied, and understood. More than that, humans had taken the alien technology and made it better. "This is impossible," Exmore said, looking at images of human spaceships. "These designs are based on our propulsion systems, but they have been changed, improved." "Ambassador." Thompson nodded. "We are fast learners. We had to be." Captain Ben Carter joined the meeting by video link from his exploration ship, the Endeavour. He was calling from a star system 40 light-years from Earth. As he spoke, he showed the aliens footage of human colonies on distant worlds. "We have settlements in 57 star systems," Captain Carter reported. "Our population across all worlds is now over 12 billion people. We have been exploring and expanding for 200 years. Zex-High felt sick. 57 star systems. In 500,000 years, these creatures had spread across more space than many Valthori colonies had ever controlled. "Show them the deep space data," General Rodriguez said to Dr. Clark. The holographic display changed to show a three-dimensional map of local space. Red dots marked human colonies and exploration zones. The map stretched out over 200 light-years in all directions from Earth. But what made the Valthori truly afraid was what the map showed in areas they thought they still controlled. Human exploration ships had visited star systems that the Valthori considered their own territory. In some cases, humans had made contact with species that had once served the Valthori Empire. "You have met the Altarians," Krelenth said, pointing to one area of the map. "They were our subjects." "Were," Ambassador Thompson said. "They have been independent for over 100,000 years. They told us about the fall of your empire." The room went quiet. The Valthori had not told the humans about the collapse of their civilization. They had hoped to maintain the illusion that they were still the powerful galactic rulers they had once been. Dr. Clark continued the presentation. He showed the aliens how humans had not just found Valthori technology, but had combined it with their own discoveries to create new inventions. Human faster-than-light drives were based on Valthori principles, but were smaller, more efficient, and more reliable than the originals. "Your people were excellent teachers," Dr. Clark said, "even though you are not here to teach us." Captain Sarah Martinez appeared on another video screen, calling from the mining operations in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Behind her, massive machines tore apart asteroids and processed the raw materials into metal and fuel for the growing human fleet. "We can build ships faster than you can," she reported to the meeting. "Our shipyards produce one new vessel every 3 days. Exmore did quick calculations in his head. The humans were building ships at a rate that would give them a larger fleet than the entire Valthori reclamation force within a single year, but the worst revelation was yet to come. "We need to discuss something important," Ambassador Thompson sighed. His voice became serious. "We know why you left Earth. We know about the Great War that destroyed your empire. We know about the other experiments you conducted on other worlds." Zex-High's blood turned cold. The humans knew about the experiments. They knew they had been changed, modified, turned into something different from what they would have naturally become. Dr. Clark showed new images on the holographic display. These were not from Earth, but from other worlds across the galaxy. Worlds where the Valthori had conducted similar experiments on different species. The Korthax in the Vega system, Dr. Clark said, the Zephyrians near the galactic core, the Nexari in the outer rim territories. "You changed them all, just like you changed us." "We studied your experimental records," General Rodriguez added. "You were trying to create the perfect warrior species. Strong, intelligent, adaptable, and aggressive. You wanted to build an army that could conquer the galaxy for you." Krelenth looked at his commander with growing horror. The truth was worse than he had feared. These humans had not just developed by accident. They were the product of Valthori genetic manipulation, designed to be exactly what they had become. The interesting thing, Ambassador Thompson continued. Is that your experiments worked better than you planned? We did not just become good warriors. We became good at everything. Science, engineering, exploration, diplomacy. You made us into the perfect galactic citizens. Except for one small problem, Dr. Clark said with a smile that did not reach his eyes. You made us too good. We do not just want to serve you. We want to replace you. The meeting ended with a simple question from Sci-Fi. What do you want from us? Ambassador Thompson's answer was just as simple. We want you to leave. This is our galaxy now. As the Valthori representatives returned to their ship, they carried with them the terrible knowledge that their greatest success had become their worst nightmare. They had created the perfect species to rule the galaxy. The only problem was they had created it to replace them. Sci-Fi could not accept what the humans had told him. It was impossible that these former primitives had become so powerful in such a short time. He demanded proof of their claims, certain that they were lying to make themselves seem more dangerous than they really were. Colonel Dan Williams, the military officer assigned to work with the aliens, smiled when he heard this request. You want proof? We will be happy to show you exactly what humanity has accomplished. The tour began at Luna Base, humanity's first major settlement beyond Earth. Director Helen Brooks met the Valthori delegation at the main landing platform. What they saw there made them speechless. The moon's surface was covered with massive industrial complexes that stretched from horizon to horizon. Factories, refineries, and construction facilities worked day and night to produce everything from computer chips to starship engines. The scale of the operation was enormous, far bigger than anything the Valthori had ever built on Earth. We process materials from asteroids here, Director Brooks explained, as they walked through manufacturing plants filled with robots and automated systems. Everything you see was built in the last 200 years. Krelenth ran calculations on his portable computer. The energy output from Luna Base alone was greater than most Valthori worlds produced. The humans had turned their moon into a factory that could supply an entire galactic empire. The next stop was Venus, where Dr. Sam Miller showed them humanity's terraforming project. The hot, poisonous planet was being slowly transformed into a world where humans could live. Massive atmospheric processors floated in the clouds, changing the air itself. Orbital mirrors redirected sunlight to cool the surface. We will have our first permanent cities on Venus within 50 years, Dr. Miller said. The entire planet will be ready for full colonization within 2 centuries. Dexmore could barely believe what he was seeing. The Valthori had never attempted to change an entire planet's atmosphere. It was considered too difficult and expensive. Yet these humans were doing it as if it were a simple engineering project. Commander Alex Stone took them to Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, where humanity had built its largest shipyards. The facilities were hidden under miles of ice, but inside were construction bays that could build vessels larger than anything in the Valthori fleet. We can construct a heavy battleship in 6 months, Commander Stone explained as they watched. Massive robotic arms assembling the hull of a new warship. Our current production rate is 4 capital ships per year, plus dozens of smaller vessels. The Valthori were beginning to understand the true scope of human military power. Not only did they have advanced technology, but they could produce new ships faster than any enemy could destroy them. But the real shock came when Captain Julia Evans took them to the edge of the solar system, where the Deep Space Communications Array connected Earth to its distant colonies. The array was a network of relay stations that could send messages across hundreds of light years instantly. Let me show you how big our civilization really is, Captain Evans said, activating the communication system. The main screen filled with status reports from human colonies across the galaxy. Admiral Paul Bennett appeared from New Olympia in the Alpha Centauri system, where human settlers had built cities on 3 different planets. Earth Command, this is New Olympia. Admiral Bennett reported. Our mining operations are ahead of schedule. We are extracting rare metals from 12 asteroid belts and shipping them back to Earth every month. Governor Maria Santos spoke from the Tau Ceti system, where humans had established agricultural colonies on 4 worlds. Our food production is now sufficient to feed 50 million people. We are ready to support the next wave of colonization. Captain Robert Lee called in from the exploration ship Discovery, currently investigating star systems near the galactic edge. We have made contact with 3 new species in the past month. 2 of them want to establish trade relationships. The 3rd asked for our help defending their world from raiders. The reports continued for over an hour. Humans were everywhere. They had settlements in the core systems, the outer rim, and the unexplored regions beyond. Wherever they went, they built, they grew, and they expanded. Professor Lavra Davis, humanity's leading expert on faster-than-light travel, showed the Valthori how humans had improved their technology. The modifications were brilliant, combining Valthori engineering with human innovation to create drives that were faster, safer, and more efficient than anything the aliens had ever built. Your people gave us the basic principles, Professor, Davis said, but we made them better. Our ships can now travel distances that would take your vessels months to cover. Lieutenant Ryan Murphy, an intelligence officer, presented the most disturbing information of all. Human exploration ships had been mapping the galaxy for decades, and they had discovered something the Valthori did not want to admit. Your empire is gone, Lieutenant Murphy said, showing them star charts of what had once been Valthori space. Most of your former colonies are now independent. Many of them have forgotten you ever existed. Some of them are at war with each other. The charts showed the truth that the Valthori had been hiding from themselves. Their great galactic empire had collapsed 200,000 years ago. The civil war that had called them home had destroyed their civilization, leaving only scattered remnants trying to rebuild. Worse yet, the humans had made contact with many of the species that had once served the Valthori. Most of them remembered the aliens as ancient masters who had abandoned them long ago. Some had grown to hate their former rulers. The Altarians told us about the experiments you conducted on their homeworld, Lieutenant Murphy continued. They said you changed their genetics to make them more aggressive and warlike, just like you did to us. Captain Nina Foster, commander of the deep space vessel Independence, appeared on the communication screen with more disturbing news. She was in the Outer Rim territories, investigating reports of hostile activity. Earth Command, Captain Foster reported, we have encountered 3 separate species that match the genetic modification patterns described in the Valthori archives. All of them are highly aggressive and expansionist. All of them claim that ancient aliens changed their people long ago. The terrible truth was becoming clear. The Valthori had not just created humanity as a warrior species. They had conducted similar experiments across the galaxy, changing dozens of different species in the same way. Zexhai felt sick as he realized what his people had done. They had not just created one perfect predator species. They had created many of them, scattered them across the galaxy, and then abandoned them to develop on their own. Dr. Eric Thompson, working with the archaeological team, presented the final piece of evidence that confirmed Valthori's worst fears. Hidden in the deepest archives was information about the original experimental goals. You were trying to create the perfect galactic conquerors, Dr. Thompson said. Species that would be smart enough to master any technology, aggressive enough to defeat any enemy, and adaptable enough to survive in any environment. Your experiments were a complete success, he continued. The problem is, you created too many successful experiments. Now they are all competing with each other for control of the galaxy. Captain Steve Martinez contacted them from the border territories with urgent news. We have detected movement from multiple directions. The Corvax Collective is expanding toward human space. The Zephyrian Hive is mobilizing their fleets. The Nexari Union has declared war on 2 neighboring species. The galaxy was not the peaceful place the Valthori had left behind. It was a battleground where multiple engineered species were fighting for dominance. Each one had been designed to be the ultimate survivor, and now they were all trying to prove which one was the best. As the tour ended, Zexhai understood the full horror of what his people had created. They had not just given up their empire and returned to find it gone. They had returned to find it replaced by dozens of perfect warrior species, all fighting each other in an endless war for galactic supremacy. The humans were not just another species asking to be left alone. They were one of many competitors in a battle that the Valthori themselves had started 500,000 years ago, and the humans were winning. Zexhai was desperate. Everything the humans had shown him proved they were far more powerful than he had imagined, but he could not accept defeat. His pride as a Valthori would not let him admit that these former test subjects had become his superiors. He made a decision that would change everything. He would take the humans to Valthori Prime, his home world. Surely, when they saw the heart of the ancient Valthori civilization, they would understand that they were still dealing with a superior species. Come with us, Zexhai told the human representatives. See our whole world. Witness the power of the Valthori at its source. Then you will understand your place in the galaxy. Captain Nina Foster agreed to lead the human delegation aboard the vessel Independence. She brought Dr. Greg Johnson, who specialized in studying alien cultures, and Commander Tyler Adams, a military observer whose job was to assess any threats to human security. The journey to Valthori Prime took 3 weeks through several jump points. As they traveled deeper into what had once been the heart of the Valthori Empire, the humans began to notice disturbing signs. Space was empty. They saw no ships, no space stations, no signs of the bustling galactic civilization that Zexhai had described. The few automated beacons they encountered were old and barely functioning. Some had been drifting in space for thousands of years, without maintenance. When they finally arrived at Valthori Prime, the humans were shocked by what they found. The planet that should have been the shining center of a galactic empire was instead a dying world struggling to survive. The planet's surface was covered with the ruins of ancient cities. Massive crystal spires that had once reached toward the sky now lay broken and abandoned. The few remaining settlements were small and isolated, connected by crumbling transportation networks that barely functioned. Dr. Johnson ran detailed scans of the planet, while Commander Adams observed the military installations. Both men reached the same conclusion. This was not a thriving civilization preparing to reclaim its empire. This was the last remnant of a species facing extinction. Commander Zexhai, Captain Foster said carefully, how many Valthori are left? The alien leader hesitated before answering. Our population is approximately 50 million across all our remaining worlds. Commander Adams did quick calculations. 50 million individuals to control an entire galaxy. It was impossible. Earth alone had more people than the entire Valthori species. Dr. Johnson's analysis of Valthori society revealed even more disturbing facts. Their birth rate had been declining for over 100,000 years. Their technology had not advanced significantly in 200 millennia. Most of their knowledge was stored in ancient archives that few living Valthori could fully understand. The proud galactic empire that the humans had expected to find simply did not exist anymore, while the human delegation was discovering the truth about Valthori Prime. Major Carol King, was making an even more shocking discovery back on Earth. Working with Dr. Tony Clark's archaeological team, she had gained access to the deepest levels of the Valthori archives hidden in Earth's caves. What she found there horrified her. "Dr. Clark," she called over the communication system, "you need to see this immediately." The archive contained detailed records of the Valthori experiments conducted on Earth over 500,000 years ago. But these were not just scientific observations. They were the complete plans for transforming humanity into a weapon of galactic conquest. The files showed that humans had not been random test subjects. They had been specifically chosen and modified to become the perfect soldiers for a galactic war. The Valthori had altered human genetics to make them more aggressive, more adaptable, and more intelligent. They had implanted psychological drives that would make humans want to explore, expand, and dominate other species. "They did not just change our bodies," Major King reported to Earth Command. "They changed our minds. They made us want to conquer the galaxy." Dr. Eric Thompson, working with another archaeological team in Asia, found even more disturbing evidence. The Valthori had not just conducted one experiment on Earth. They had run dozens of different tests, creating multiple variations of enhanced humans to see which modifications would be most effective. Some of the early experiments were failures, Dr. Thompson reported. The test subjects became too aggressive and destroyed themselves. Others became too passive and could not survive in hostile environments. But eventually, they found the perfect balance. The perfect balance had created modern humanity, intelligent enough to master any technology, aggressive enough to defeat any enemy, but social enough to work together in large groups. The Valthori had designed the ultimate galactic predators. Captain Steve Martinez, patrolling the border regions of human space, began receiving disturbing reports from his scout ships. The other species that the Valthori had experimented on were all exhibiting the same patterns of behavior as humans. The Korthax Collective was expanding aggressively into neighboring territories, using advanced technology to overwhelm less developed species. The Zephyrian Hive was reproducing rapidly and consuming the resources of entire star systems. The Nexari Union was forming military alliances and building massive fleets for conquest. All of them showed the same characteristics that had made humanity so successful: intelligence, aggression, adaptability, and an unstoppable drive to expand their territory. Earth Command, Captain Martinez reported, "We are not unique. The galaxy is full of species just like us, all created by the same experiments, all following the same program of expansion and conquest." The implications were terrifying. The Valthori had not just created one perfect warrior species. They had created dozens of them and scattered them across the galaxy. For 500,000 years, these engineered species had been growing, learning, and preparing for the ultimate test of their design. Now they were all ready to prove which one deserved to rule the galaxy. Dr. Janet Adams, Earth's chief military strategist, analyzed the data and reached a chilling conclusion. "The Valthori did not create us to serve them," she reported to the Global Council. "They created us to replace them. All of us, every species they modified, was designed to be better than the Valthori themselves." President Karen Allen convened an emergency session of Earth's leaders to discuss the implications of these discoveries. The meeting included military commanders, scientists, and diplomatic officials from across human space. "We are facing a situation that no one prepared for," President Allen said. "We thought we were dealing with our former masters, returning to reclaim their empire. Instead, we are dealing with a dying species that accidentally created their own replacements." General Patricia Clark presented the military analysis. "Every Valthori engineered species is a potential threat to human expansion. They have the same capabilities we do, the same drives, the same goals. Conflict is inevitable. The final horror was revealed when Admiral Chris Wilson received intelligence reports from deep space reconnaissance missions. 3 separate coalitions of engineered species had already formed military alliances. All of them had identified humanity as their primary competitor for galactic dominance. They know what we are, Admiral Wilson reported, just as we know what they are. We are all products of the same experiment, and we all understand that there can only be one winner. Back on Valthori Prime, Sci-Fi finally admitted the truth to the human delegation. His people were not the mighty galactic rulers they pretended to be. They were the frightened survivors of a species that had made the greatest mistake in galactic history. We thought we were creating servants, Sci-Fi said, his voice filled with despair. Instead, we created our replacements. Every species we enhanced has become stronger than us. Every experiment we conducted has produced children who surpassed their creators. Captain Foster looked at the broken alien leader with something almost like pity. What did you expect would happen when you designed us to be perfect? We expected you to serve us forever, Sci-Fi replied. We never imagined you would become better than us at everything, including the things we thought only we could do. As the human delegation prepared to return to Earth, Dr. Johnson made one final disturbing discovery. In the deepest archives of Valthori Prime, he found records of other experiments the aliens had conducted throughout their history. Humanity was not the first species the Valthori had tried to enhance. Over millions of years, they had conducted similar experiments on hundreds of different species across the galaxy. Most of the experiments had failed, but some had succeeded too well. The Valthori had been creating perfect predator species for millions of years. And now all of their successful experiments were finally ready to compete with each other for control of the galaxy. The war that was coming would not be between the Valthori and their former subjects. It would be between the children of the Valthori, fighting to prove which of them deserved to inherit the galaxy. Their creators had abandoned Dot, and every one of them had been designed to win. The reports came in from across the galaxy like pieces of a terrible puzzle. Each new message made the situation clearer and more frightening. Humanity was not alone in its rapid expansion and aggressive behavior. The galaxy was full of species, just like them, all products of the same ancient experiments. Commander Rachel Price, aboard the deep space vessel Horizon, sent the first detailed report about contact with another Valthori-engineered species. Her ship had encountered the Corthax Collective while exploring the Vega sector. Earth Command, Commander Price reported, the Corthax are reptilian, about 8 feet tall, and extremely hostile. Their technology is as advanced as ours, maybe more so in some areas. They have conquered their entire galactic arm and are expanding toward the core systems. The Corthax had undergone the same transformation as humanity, but their reptilian biology had led them down a different path. Where humans had developed teamwork and cooperation, the Corthax had perfected individual combat and predatory hunting. Their society was organized like a massive pack of hunters, with the strongest ruling through dominance and fear. Captain Matt Rodriguez made contact with the Zephyrian hive near the galactic core. His report was even more disturbing than Commander Price's. These are insectoid creatures that reproduce incredibly fast, Captain Rodriguez reported. They can colonize an entire star system in less than 50 years. Their ships are organic, grown rather than built, and they seem to operate as a single collective mind. The Zephyrians had taken the Valthori modifications in yet another direction. Their hive mind made them perfectly coordinated, but their rapid reproduction meant they consumed resources at an incredible rate. They were like a biological plague, spreading from world to world and consuming everything in their path. On Earth, President Karain Allen called an emergency meeting of the Global Council. The reports from deep space were making it clear that humanity faced threats, unlike anything they had ever imagined. Dr. Andrew Lewis, the government's chief xenobiologist, presented his analysis of all the Valthori-engineered species they had encountered so far. The data was frightening. Every species shows the same basic pattern, Dr. Lewis reported. Enhanced intelligence, aggressive expansion, rapid technological development, and strong survival instincts. But each one has evolved these traits in different ways, based on their original biology and culture. The Korthax had become perfect individual predators. The Zephyrians had become a collective devouring machine. The Nexari, another species found in the Outer Rim, had developed into master strategists and alliance builders. Each one represented a different approach to galactic domination. General Patricia Clark presented the military implications. "We are not just facing individual threats," she said. "These species are forming alliances against us. Our intelligence indicates that at least 3 coalitions had been formed with the specific goal of containing human expansion. The largest coalition was led by the Korthax Collective and included 5 other engineered species. They controlled over 300 star systems and had fleets numbering in the thousands of ships. Their stated goal was simple: prevent humanity from expanding beyond its current territory." Admiral Chris Wilson received the most disturbing intelligence of all. A deep space reconnaissance mission had intercepted communications between coalition leaders discussing their plans for humanity. "They know exactly what we are," Admiral Wilson reported. "They have studied our expansion patterns, our technology, and our behavior. They recognize us as products of the same experiments that created them, and they consider us the greatest threat to their own expansion." The intercepted communications revealed something even more disturbing. The coalition species were not just working together out of fear of humanity. They were planning to use humans as a testing ground for their own military capabilities. "They want to see which of their enhancement patterns is the most effective," Admiral Wilson continued. "They plan to use the war against humanity to prove which species deserves to rule the galaxy." Dr. Janet Adams, Earth's chief strategist, spent weeks analyzing all the available data about the engineered species. Her final report painted a picture of a galaxy caught in a nightmare of the Valthori's making. The Valthori created approximately 50 successful warrior species over the past 1,000,000 years, Dr. Adams reported. Most of them have been expanding and conquering for hundreds of thousands of years. The galaxy is not full of diverse civilizations. It is full of competing predators, all designed to be perfect killers. The ancient dream of finding peaceful alien civilizations to trade and cooperate with was dead. Instead, humanity had discovered a galaxy where every successful species had been engineered for war and conquest. President Allen faced an impossible choice. Earth could try to negotiate with the coalition species, but every attempt at diplomacy had failed. The engineered species saw negotiation as a sign of weakness. They only respected strength and dominance. "We have 3 options, General," Clark presented to the Global Council. "We can surrender and accept limited territory under coalition control. We can try to form our own alliances with other engineered species. Or we can fight for our right to expand and grow." The first option was unacceptable to most humans. The genetic modifications the Valthori had made to humanity included a drive to explore and expand that could not be turned off. Accepting limited territory would be like asking humans to stop breathing. The second option was equally problematic. Every attempt to ally with other engineered species had revealed the same truth. They were all competitors for the same resources and territory. Alliances between predator species never lasted long. That left only the third option: war. Captain Bobby Lewis received orders to lead the first major human fleet toward the contested territories where coalition forces were massing. His fleet included 50 of Earth's most advanced warships and represented the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. As Captain Lewis prepared for departure, he received a final communication from Commanders X-High. The Valthori leader had one last revelation to share with the species his people had created. The war that is coming is not the first, X-High said. Every few 100,000 years, our enhanced species fight each other to determine the dominant civilization. The winners expand and grow until they encounter other winners. Then they fight again. The cycle had been repeating for millions of years. The Valthori would create perfect warrior species. Those species would grow and expand until they met each other, and then they would fight massive wars that devastated entire galactic regions. The survivors of each war become stronger and more advanced, X-High continued. But they also become more dangerous and more aggressive. Each cycle produces deadlier predators than the last. Dr. Janet Adams realized the final, most terrifying truth about the galaxy they lived in. We are not just fighting for territory or resources, she reported to Earth's leaders. We are participating in a selection process that has been running for millions of years. The Valthori created us to compete with each other until only the strongest species survives. The galaxy was not a place of diverse civilizations exploring the stars together. It was a giant arena where engineered species fought endless wars to prove which design was most effective. Humanity had not discovered alien life. They had discovered that they were contestants in a competition they never knew they had entered. As the human fleet moved toward its first major battle with the coalition forces, the truth became clear to everyone involved. This war would not be about territory or ideology or resources. It would be about survival. The species that won would inherit a galaxy designed to produce the perfect predator. The species that lost would join the millions of failed experiments that had been destroyed in previous cycles. On Earth, in the deep caves where Valthori archives still glowed with ancient light, Dr. Lisa Parker made one final discovery. Hidden in the oldest files was a message from the original Valthori scientists who had started the enhancement experiments millions of years ago. We believe we are creating the perfect servants to build our empire, the ancient message said. But we sometimes wonder if we are actually creating the species that will replace us. Perhaps that is the true purpose of intelligence, to create something better than yourself, even if it means your own extinction. The Valthori had succeeded beyond their wildest dreams. They had created dozens of species superior to themselves in every way. The problem was, they had created too many of them. Now their perfect children were going to war with each other to decide which one deserved to inherit the galaxy. The survivors would be stronger, smarter, and more dangerous than anything that had ever existed. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, other ancient species watched and waited, knowing that eventually the winners of this war would grow strong enough to challenge them as well. The cycle would continue, as it had for millions of years, until only the most perfect predator remained. Captain Lewis opened a communication channel to his fleet as they approached the battle zone. All ships, this is your captain. We are about to engage in the first battle of a war that will determine the future of our species. Remember, we were designed for this. We were created to win. The human fleet moved forward into the darkness, car